I would like to call to order the Personnel Administration Committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Tyus.
Alderman Cohn's present.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Page.
Present.
President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Schweitzer. We have 8 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We are going to skip over approval of the minutes for today. They're not quite finished and go straight on to board bills for review. We do have a handful of comments that have been emailed in. We do not have anybody signed up to testify this morning, but we will. So I'm going to leave it up to the committee for how we move forward after today, but I will turn it over to Alderwoman Howard for board bill number 119.
Sorry. At this time, I'd like to put board bill 119 that raises the salary for the newly elected alderman of 14 after April 17, 2023 to 72,000.
Right, Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, can you hear
Oh.
me?
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
going in and out.
I have to admit, I'm not as prepared as I should be here.
You may proceed.
Okay, to raise the salary to $72,000 from its current level of, I think it's 38 plus expenses. The current salary is commensurate with the amount of work. It's probably low for people that are pursuing this as a career. And I think that we need to maybe make the salary commensurate with the work involved. As one of the persons stated, they would be okay with this if we were full-time. And that's another presentation. So I'm not going to go into that, but I guess my question to that is how do we hold people accountable for that? And I don't know if we do put that in force, are we going to be able to, recruit people to give up a job to run for office? So having that ahead of us, I've done some research, and when we look at, we made some comments in the last meeting about being commensurate with the other city employees. The city average pay is $54,300. The median pay is $51,400. So, I would entertain if anybody wants to change this level of pay. I would entertain that. I'm not sure. There was some discussion about lowering it. I'm okay either way. I'm bringing this forward to have some discussion on it, to have input. I don't think we legislate in a dark room by ourselves. So I'm willing to take any comments from the committee and then the feedback from those people that responded. And let's take a vote on it because we need to move this forward.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's go through.
Madam Chairman.
Did you have a question?
Well, it looks like there are a bunch of folks over in the participants list, and I was contacted by at least one of them who says that they did sign up, but they didn't get a confirmation. So since we don't have a long list of folks, and I think with Clerk Kennedy out this week on bereavement leave, we might have missed some folks who may have signed up here. So if there is a procedure that you would be okay with for those folks raising their hands, we can keep them at time limits. But I just don't want to miss anybody if the whole intent here was to get public input.
Okay. I agree with that. If there are folks who are interested in testifying, could you virtually raise your hand? And we can, okay, so we have a couple hands raised. Would it be possible either from STL TV to change
they're-
permissions? Okay.
They're coming over.
Excuse me, President Green, this is Sharita. I am moving them over as they're raising their hand.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And I am just going to start in the order that I see them on my screen. And you will need to get sworn in. So let's start with, my computer's being slow here. Let's start with Lori Crawford.
Okay, this is Lori.
All right. Lori, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay, my testimony
Point
is.
Order, ma'am.
Pardon?
Madam, we need to see the person that's speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here I am.
All right, you may proceed.
Yes, I would like to testify that this is not necessary to give you this amount of raise. When this was started 10 years ago, it was to decrease the pay, or decrease funds, or not raise funds, and to save the city money. We have so many other things in the city of St. Louis that needs to be taken care of. For instance, getting more police officers on board, just hiring people in general. You will make more than a captain on a fire department. You are not that valuable. And there will be people running for your position based on a part-time job. We lost 600,000 people from the city. So what I'm saying is this is not who I voted for my alderperson in to raise it to double the salary. So I am against this, and I think you need to relook at the budget altogether and put this money to our law enforcement officers, our safety firefighters, our first responders, and try to use this money to increase, like our trash pickup that I'm being charged for, and nothing's going into the recycle bin. I personally would like my money back for that. This is so irresponsible for you to even suggest you deserve a $70,000 year salary, especially like you just said, Carol just said, I believe the average income for the city worker is around 50,000. No, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your time. Next person is Carissa.
Hello. Hello.
Do you swear to that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. I have one question. I have testimony for both board bills that were on the agenda. Should I say that all at once or just hold on until we get to Alderman Vaccaro's board bill?
Just hold on until you get to Alderman Vaccaro's.
Thank you. I am here to testify in favor of the doubling of the current aldermanic salaries. I think that the current aldermen have been Carissa Gilman Hernandez. Thank you, Sharita, for reminding me. I'm the 15th Ward Committee woman. I think you all have been woefully underpaid for a very long time, which has led to aldermen having full-time jobs where they are not accessible to their constituents at the level that we are expected. If it's on purpose or just how it happened, the aldermen are the gatekeepers to city services within St. Louis City for many. And if we expect you all to be full-time available to us, we should pay you as full-time people. That said, I do want to lift up what Alderwoman Howard said, where the full-time pay of city workers is very low. We don't pay them enough. And we expect a lot out of those folks. And so I think when we are talking about giving you all raises, I think we need to have that conversation in tandem with how we raise up the income for those city workers. And I'd also just like to lift up that I did a quick CDA search last night. For a family of 4, about 80% AMI, if I'm remembering correctly, average medium income is around $74,000. And so you all will be making within the 80% AMI for family 4. I know many of you have family 4s or less than that, but I would like to lift up the fact that many St. Louisans will never meet $72,000 a year in income. And so when you are living within the means of the $72,000 a year, I'd like you all to just keep in mind when you're proposing legislation and making definitions of what counts as affordable living in St. Louis City. Could they live off of $72,000 a year and feed their family and house them and clothe them and ensure that they have the life that we all want to have here in St. Louis City? Thank you for your time and letting me share my testimony.
Thank you. Elizabeth Garraby.
Yes.
Right.
My
We need
comment,
to-
I don't know. Let me see. I have to go up here and do something.
We need to be able to see you.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. Let me see. Jeez. Well, I don't know what to do.
There should be a
Do I
little.
start video? Is that what I do?
Yes, that's what you do.
Okay, okay. Oh, here I am. Oh, I
Here
look
we
lovely on
go.
a Saturday morning.
All right, I need to swear you in first.
Oh, yes,
You solemnly swear that the testimony that you are about to give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You may proceed.
Well, my opinion is, first of all, I don't know how many of you, I don't know if I could find that out or how, if I should know that, how many of you already have other jobs than being an alderman? And do you want to raise your hand if you have another job? Or is that not appropriate? Okay. So I do think the salary right now is fairly low in view of what's expected of the alderman. However, I think this is really poor timing because of such a lack of city services. I have recently been attending some other board committee meetings, and I was shocked to find out that it's been 5 years people have been waiting for their sidewalks to be done. For whatever reason, there's money that's been put aside. It's never been spent because of snafus, or I don't know what the reason is, but I feel like the aldermen, if they have not been keeping up with that, they should have been. So to get a double increase in salary, I think is really poor timing right now. I'm not against a raise, but I think to go maybe even to the median salary of a city worker. I mean, and because if you can't live on 54, then the city workers shouldn't be asked to live on 54. I think this 37 is a little low, but I would like to see more accountability on the part of the alderman, because, and I think Alderman Vaccaro has alluded to this, the leaf pickup. I mean, so many services that we've been paying for that we have been used to receiving, we are no longer receiving. And so I know we always have to blame someone, so I guess we're blaming the alder people, but and whether that's fair or not, I don't know. I don't know how much power you actually have if you've requested something for your neighborhood that is not being done. I don't know what obstacles you face, but I'm not sure. I would like to see those obstacles removed before giving a pay increase. And I've worked as a registered nurse. I retired at the age of 73 years ago. And I'm not sure I ever doubled my salary from my starting salary. And as people have said, other people have said, police officers, firefighters, nurses, they work extremely hard. And I was a divorced mother of 3, and I would get jobs where I could, also take care of my kids. And I was making 48,000, and I was a homeowner. I had to refinance my house 3 times to send my kids to school because I was told that being white and living in the city, my son, who was gifted, would never get into Kennard. So that was kind of a slap in the face. But I feel like until the services, and also in every job I've ever had, if I wanted a pay increase, I had to exceed expectations in several different areas, or I wasn't getting a pay increase. So I think that all needs to be thought about before this pay raise of this magnitude would go into effect. I guess that's all I have to say. I have a lot more to say, and you say, is it the truth or not the truth? I don't, from attending some of these board meetings, I don't even know what's the truth anymore. I mean, it's hard to tell what's the truth because there are all kinds of reasons why things aren't being done, but I don't know. Call me a cynic, but
Thank
I'm
you.
done. Thank you.
Right, now, let's go over to
On video myself.
committee discussion. I think that's everyone who came to speak. Alderman Cohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have any specific comments at this point in time. With respect to the board bill, or rather the testimony that's taken place this morning, just in terms of the process, though, I do hope that we have the opportunity to have at least one more committee hearing on this. And whether that hearing allows for additional public testimony. I do think that it's important that we get the feedback of residents. I know I've been getting feedback, pretty consistently the past year or so since we've been more focused on moving down to a board of 14. Maybe not as much as there was over the past 10 years while we were trying to have a more structured process for moving forward. But with respect to the process for this particular board bill, I would certainly hope that we have at least one more hearing to get input and have public discussion around this. I hear the concerns of the residents that have spoken so far. I think it's important for us to also keep in mind that we do function as a legislative branch. A lot of the issues that are being brought forward, really are part of the executive function of government with the administration of services and whatnot, which we can influence to a degree, but we don't have direct oversight of those functions. And as an alderperson who's been around for 14 years, who was around at the time that the original Prop R passed back in 2012, I publicly was on the floor saying that this was not a matter of expense reduction. I know one of my colleagues in particular who was around at the time and at that point in time as well was saying, that this is being touted as expense reduction. It's not going to do that. He'll tell you as much today. I was telling him 10 years ago that this was not a matter of expense reduction. It was more about efficiency in our government. But, I think at the onset here, we have a lot of opportunity to bring salaries commensurate with the type of work that's being done, with the possibly average pay of the city or the directors or commissioners that we are responsible for holding accountable as a legislative body. And certainly when we go down to 14, we'll have more responsibility in terms of trying to hold those department heads accountable and having quality candidates in those roles. as alderpersons will be critical to ensuring that that happens. So, but again, really appreciate everyone coming out this morning and sharing their thoughts and feedback. And, certainly hope that we're able to do another meeting or two so that we can continue to have that additional input as we go through this deliberative process. Thank you.
Great. Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Rice.
Thank you. I guess I don't really have any questions. Just thank you so much for the folks that came to testify or, speak with us this morning. I remain a bit torn on this as to, what exactly the right number is here. I do think that the pay does need to increase. We are doubling the workload of the folks who are coming in April. This was always supposed to be part of the process, was adjusting what the pay for aldermen was going to be going forward. And, if we had done this 8 years ago or 4 years ago, it may, trash pickup may have looked a little bit different. So we're kind of a victim of the timing here as well. That I don't mean to say that we are victims. Aldermen are not victims here. Let me take that back. We are in the midst of a challenging time for city services. And so as we know that we need to raise the pay for all of our city employees and making sure that city services are being delivered, again, in a city that was built for 800,000 people and is now down to 300,000, we have significant challenges in front of us. I'm sympathetic to the conversation around what the area median income is, and maybe tying more closely to those numbers or to numbers of similarly situated city employees, that type of thing, rather than just a straight double. I think that could be a good place to look. I do want a professional, well-compensated Board of Aldermen that doesn't have to rely on another person in the household or a retirement income or passive income to maintain their work. So I want pay to at least increase to that level. So I would not be satisfied if we left this committee without voting something, not today necessarily, but I would not be satisfied if I left my time in office without moving towards an increase in pay of some kind here. So if more conversations need to be had, if we need to do some more outreach and see if we can get some more folks, maybe it's the holidays and that's why people aren't here to testify today, but I do think we should move some sort of increase out of here. I'm just not quite sure what the right number is at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Narayan.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with the alderman from the 25th here, as well as the alderwoman from the 8th. I think it's with the increase in responsibilities, I do believe that there needs to be an increase in the compensation to allow for people to devote all of their time to one job rather than having their attention split between various things. But I'm not sure what exactly that number should be. I'm inclined to believe that the 70,000 that's proposed here, it may be too high. I think that we probably need to look closer to what the average city workers pay is. And I'm hoping that as we move forward through here, and maybe even as we get through this committee hearing, that more and more of the public will be talking about this issue, because I've heard people have strong feelings on both sides in my constituency about we shouldn't be paid at all because we're a bunch of bums, or that, we should, make $1 million a year, because why on earth would anyone want to do this job if they didn't get compensated for it well, and everything in between. So I would definitely like to hear more from the people. As I stated before, ultimately, this is the people's government. These are the people's seats. We're just kind of keeping them warm for a little while. And I hope to hear more from folks on what they think appropriate compensation is. And I'll remain open to changing that dollar amount up until we have the final vote. So if anyone out there wants to weigh in, and they're watching this meeting on YouTube later or whatever, feel free to reach out to me, and I believe to any of us on this committee, because I know from conversations that we've had that this is a pretty tricky thing for all of us. And I know that all of us want to get as much input as we can and try and make the right decision, keeping in mind that we are not giving ourselves a raise. We are giving the next group of people who are keeping these seats warm a raise. And it may very well be none of us. And I want the person who represents me to be able to devote the appropriate amount of time to representing me, particularly now that I know over the last few years how much time this job really takes, especially when things aren't going well. And as was pointed out by the public testimony earlier, city services have been rough lately, and I know that it's taken a whole lot of time from all of us to deal with things like missed street sweeping, missed bulk pickup, rollout carts needing replacement, so on and so forth. The list kind of goes on and on. But I just want to make sure that whoever is in this seat moving forward has what they need in order to be successful at the job, because ultimately their success will be our city's success. And with that, I will yield.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I think this conversation, the number that Alder people are paid, has to be within the context of what other city employees are making. We are the only group that gets to sit and decide their own salaries or the future alderman salaries. And I just think it's inappropriate to discuss a number outside of what other city employees are making. I know from personal experience in this job, I did start out with basically a full-time job as well as being an alder. And over the last 2 years, I've just done less and less and less for that other job because it's just not possible. And I have prioritized this job over my other job and make a lot less money than I did when I started being an alderman. And that's kind of the way it goes. I think that alders should be paid more than $37,000 a year, with the ward sizes doubling. What that number is, I think, is a lot closer to the median salary for city employees that Alderman Howard brought up at the beginning in her testimony, somewhere maybe in the 50s. And I do think we should hear from more people about this. I know that we sent an email earlier this week to the personnel director saying, here's some information we need. We did get some of that information, but not all of it. We've been provided with salaries that other city employees were making the last time the salary increased at the Board of Aldermen, but not what they're making now. So the percentage difference between then and now is not clear to me yet, and how that should be reflected in the pay of the Board of Aldermen. And at the end of the day, this is a service job. I understand that it's a professional job, but all of the city employees who work for us are professionals as well. And to somehow put alders above them is just not why I'm here, not what I'm trying to do. So I really appreciate everyone's comments, and I look forward to hearing from more people.
You, Alderman Page.
Thank you, Madam President. Just three quick items. First and foremost, I would like to thank the speakers that we had who came out on a Saturday morning to express their opinions on this issue. That to me is noteworthy. Second thing is I paid real close attention while we were deliberating the new ward maps and building the ward maps out with the appropriate number of census tracts, which led to, if my memory serves me correctly, because it's been a minute or two now, but our wards are approximately doubling in population size to an average about 26,500 people. That is noteworthy in my opinion. I know I serve in and I'm going to use my trademark, the fabulous 5th Ward, which will become the fabulous 14th Ward going forward for the successful candidate. And I get a lot of email messages, a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages, a lot of invitations for in-person meetings. And that is with a population now of about 11,000 to 12,000 people. When it goes to 26,005, I don't know that 21,005 is the number for the new wards. When that number of population, the number of constituents approximately doubles, I don't know that the request for services will double mathematically, but they will increase. The job that is already full-time will become full-time plus. And I think it's worthy of some consideration of an increase that will allow people to feed their families, to have a living wage with the increased workload that we know is coming. Third and final comment is that I'm going to hearken back to my first comment. I think public input is important. And as far as I'm concerned, I welcome additional public comment as we deliberate this very important issue. Thank you, Madam President. I yield back.
Thank you, members of the committee. So a couple things that are on my mind. First of all, want to make it clear that we need to, and we are discussing this in the context of increases in wages and benefits for other city employees. The Public Employees Committee will be hearing a resolution on Monday regarding asking the personnel department for some employee benefits. And I do expect that after the first of the year, there will be legislation to at least give additional benefits to city employees. There are a lot of union negotiations that are in place right now. It is not our role as a body to interfere in those union negotiations over those increases to actual wages, but as a body, we can weigh in and give additional recruitment and retention benefits to city employees. And that is something that I do envision this body doing in the subsequent months. I also want to make it clear that we do have a timeline. We have to get this done within this session in order for any increase to take place for this next Board of Aldermen that will be coming in, that has twice, theoretically twice the responsibilities that we do right now. And, if we were to benchmark what we are making now, since the last time the wage was raised for the Board of Aldermen was, several decades ago. If we were to benchmark that to inflation for today, we would be making actually in excess of $72,000 per year. And I think that you know, that context needs to be taken into this as well. When this wage was initially put in place, it was a real living wage for alder people. And it has not kept pace with that over time, which is also true for a number of city employees. So I am happy to hold this for now, to have some additional hearings, perhaps give some time for legislation surrounding increase in benefits and pay for city employees to move forward as well, so that we are discussing these two things in tandem, while recognizing that we may end up, you know, depending upon how far this gets pushed, you know, down the road, we may end up having to call additional meetings to get this done by the the board goes on recess. I see a hand up from the Alderwoman from the 6th, and then I'll go to the 19th and the 23rd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just was curious what the thoughts of the sponsor were in terms of taking a vote today. I understand we do have some outstanding questions, but I'm not opposed to taking a vote on this today to move it forward to the full board and doing some work in between now and when perfection is. If it's something that she would like to move forward, I do understand that time is of the essence here. And I want to be really careful about the fact that we do have money set aside in fiscal year 2023's budget. And I think it would be a shame and possibly difficult for us to get that back if we don't use it within this fiscal year. So Alderman Hubbard, do you have any thoughts on that?
I am fine moving it forward, and I would like, if anybody has any amendments to this, if they would please put them to me. I was kind of hoping I would hear something, you know, after the initial committee hearing, but I haven't, and I'm a little disappointed today that we didn't have more public input. However, you know, this is a bill that needs attention and that we need to have some input for. So yeah, I'm willing to move it forward if the committee so deems that's, you know, the way to go. But I think, as you said, I would be interested in any input committee or otherwise people would have to this Board Bill 119.
Thank you so much. I don't have any other questions.
Alderwoman from the 19th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the committee. One of the things that I'd like to do is to assure the public they don't have to wait until we have a meeting to share information with us. Feel free to send an email to any or all of us, text message if you have our numbers. But I've been paying attention to social media. There's a lot of comments there. And if we wanted to, you know, we can capture those and put those into consideration as well. So I don't know if it's about having another meeting to have public input, because this is your second one. And the previous meeting in the week, we had no one sign up for public speaking, but we did have 2 written documents that were submitted. And we basically had almost the same thing today. I appreciate those who did come and speak and gave us reason to have thought. But we also have to be cognizant of who we really are and the processes for the city of St. Louis. We have a personnel department who can set some standards and things as we move forward. And when it comes to public employees, we are very much removed from that process in a way of speaking, because there is a Civil Service Commission that works with the Personnel Division and not necessarily the will of the Mayor's Office or the Board of Aldermen. And they do set standards and work in tandem to get some things done. And we can do a resolution to make some recommendations to them. So we want the public to have all information. We are not all powerful. We do not handle city services. That is not our job. We are not the supervisors of any of those departments. And but I do know, and I have always accepted all blame, all concerns, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because I know that's who they know and they see on a regular basis is the alderperson. But we don't have absolute command. And I know that on occasions I've heard some aldermen want to take that, but you are confusing the public. So I do know that as we move forward, and I appreciate the president saying, and others saying that we do still have time to make any changes during the process of it being at the full board status. So we don't want the public to think that the vote today is the end, because it's not. It is the beginning of moving the bill forward. And I'm always there. I took time again this morning to read all the history. And I know people don't even know this. Even in the 80s, no one could make more than $25,000 a year, including the mayor. And so we're suffering from that. Just, you know, it's hard to get caught up for anybody, especially the employees, because that was the standard. And so we have a long way to go in the city of St. Louis to bring balance and equality to our jobs and benefits and all that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Alderman from the 23rd.
A couple things, and I'll lower my hand. Couple things. Oops. One, moving this on takes the public out of it. The public can only talk in committee hearings. So if you want to take the public out of it, that's what this does. The other problems I have is, you know, I want to address a couple of things. Alderman Page says, well, you know, 26,000 people. Go back 20, 25 years, an alderman represented way more than that with no staff. They didn't have offices back then. They basically met in the hall, along desks along the hall. They didn't have an NSO program that the NSO got to do all this. And keeping in mind that this isn't just 72,000, you're also wanting 2 staff members to do the job and an additional 400, so that $800 expense money that you can have unaccountable, which makes it even higher than 72. I absolutely disagree. I won't vote for this even, you know, anyway. I'm not on this committee, but on the floor, I will be working hard against it. I will be out on the streets working hard against this. I think that it's a slap in the face to every city employee when we're going to double our salary, or even if it goes to 50, you know, it's for a job that we're off so many months through the whole summer. We're off so many months through Christmas. We're off so many months for the spring break. You know, when the employees that are making 54,000 that we're talking about, they're there every day, full time. Full time. Can't compare this to that. And I'm sitting here and I'm just getting really mad. So I'll mute myself, but I'm listening, and the only time, and somebody can, I see, no. The only time people can actually sign in, and this hasn't been publicized, and most of the time when it comes to finance stuff, we do at least 3 public meetings. We do something out in the neighborhood, because not everybody's computer savvy. Not everyone can afford a computer. This meeting should be on the road in the different neighborhoods. But if we block out anyone that's not computer savvy, that's flat wrong. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself because this committee will do whatever it is. I'm not on this committee. I think it's just absolutely a slap in the face if this thing comes out without more public input, because I think what you're going to find out is the public does not feel this is appropriate. Thank you.
Alderman from the 25th.
Thank you. This might be, thank you, Madam President. This might be one of the few times where I have an agreement with my colleague from the 23rd Ward. I really don't feel like it's appropriate to vote this out of committee today for a variety of reasons. You know, I do want to just make note, you know, the alderman from the 23rd, pointed out that, we have the NSO, we have, some other resources for our neighborhoods. They're not necessarily for the Board of Aldermen. We haven't even voted on additional staff for the Board of 14 at this point. I know it's a point of discussion, but we have not voted on that. Additionally, while those resources might be in place, going back to even the 1980s, the city had a fully functioning Board of Public Service. We had probably almost twice the number of city employees that we do now. So that means we had fully funded building divisions. We had fully funded refuse. We had fully staffed versus fully funded, but fully staffed BPS, fully staffed refuse, fully staffed, and probably more than adequately staffed, for, forestry, parks, rec, streets, etc. We had massive layoffs in the 70s and 80s. The 80s probably stand out more to me just because of some of the stories that I've heard relative to those. But, the comparison there isn't apples to apples, because really, when you look at the picture from its totality, we had departments that were actually functioning back then, and they didn't act as aldermen didn't have to act as escalation points to the degree that we do now, because we didn't have the types of issues that we have now. That being said, I think, my colleague from the 23rd Ward, makes a very valid point, that this would kind of circumvent the public input process from a deliberative perspective. And also, we just had a very long Board of Aldermen meeting yesterday. Went over 5 hours long, if I remember correctly. And there were a lot of eyes rolling for people who, were kind of tired of listening to the, back and forth on the floor as it pertained to one or two board bills yesterday. I can't even imagine what that must look like with this particular board bill and trying to do amendments from the floor, multiple amendments from the floor, without doing more work in committee. And then to vote out, this is a relatively simple board bill. It's not long. It's, a single subject. It's basically the amount of money that the board would be making after the next elections, the future board would be making. And that would mean that members of this committee are going on record as saying that they are supportive of the salary as it's currently in the board bill. Not, what potential amendments might be out and introduced on the floor. And half the board, or half the folks that are, have spoken today have, addressed that they'd like to discuss further what that number might be, whether it's higher, whether it's lower, whether it's, what's in the bill currently. I just think it would be very irresponsible of this committee to vote this out today. I certainly was not prepared to vote this out today. My colleague from the 14th Ward mentioned that she was expecting to hear, from colleagues. I was hoping to hear from the public before kind of digging into the dirt and, suggesting or recommending, either background to support the board bill as it's written currently, or make adjustments or amendments to it based off of feedback and data and research. So again, I have to reiterate, I hope that we have at least another meeting or two. We don't have to pass this out today. It doesn't have to be passed out of the board until we till the end of session, this current session. We still have several meetings left in this session to do so. I would just very much appreciate people's support to allow, at least an additional meeting where the alder people on this committee can do the work and, present their thoughts in a, articulate fashion, with some data and support of whatever those recommendations might be for this board bill. Thank you.
Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to address a couple of things that were stated. As far as not working over summer and over the Christmas break, I want to be clear, at least for me, and I believe for basically all of my colleagues, the fact that we're not having full board meetings over some periods of the year does not mean that we're not working. I know I'm still in 5 neighborhood association meetings, business merchants associations, various church groups, the community doesn't stop, and we're expected to be a part of that all year round, not just when we're meeting to legislate, because the job is greater than just legislating. We're also liaisons to the community from the government. As far as cutting out folks who aren't computer savvy, I agree with the alderman from the 23rd there, but I wish that we had some of that same energy when it came to the idea that we've been meeting on Zoom for the last 2 years. So I find it a bit ironic that we're all of a sudden very concerned about people who aren't computer savvy. Well, we've been exclusively virtual until the last couple weeks now. That being said, I can't be supportive of this at the $72,000. I'd rather not vote this out of committee today. I think that there is tough work to be done. I think tough work should be done in committee. We do have time. I'd like to discuss various things we may do where we could tie aldermanic pay to the average city salary. We could that way future boards don't have this issue. I think we can look at longer term solutions. The Alderwoman from the 19th put an interesting idea, at least in the chat, which I certainly hadn't thought of before. But I think committee is the appropriate place for these discussions, so that we can bring to the full board something that the vast majority of this committee at least supports. And with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. So what the proposal that I am going to make is that we hold this for another meeting, but during that time, what I would like us to do as a committee is to compile all this information that we've gotten over the last few days. I would also like us to look back at the last time this salary was raised, what that would translate to in today's dollars. As I think that's also an important data point. I am committed to moving this forward, but I think that the work to figure out what that dollar amount needs to be should come from this committee. And then we're able to propose that to the full board. And we know that we've done all of our kind of due diligence, but behind that number, and can go to the rest of the board and say, we've chosen to, whether it's tying it to the median salary for a city employee or whatever. So, but I also want to make it clear that I don't want to draw this out forever. And so the expectation, I think, on my end is that, we do some due diligence on compiling the rest of the information that committee members are asking for. And then at the next hearing that we have, we can also notice that to take public testimony. And I think we need to be prepared to amend this with our recommendation and send it out to the full board at that meeting, if that is amenable to everyone here and to the bill sponsor. Okay, I'm seeing.
Do you want me to reply?
I'm just asking, is that okay if we do one more meeting between now and then? We'll figure out what each of our recommendations are for the dollar amount and reach consensus as a committee on what that dollar amount is, and then vote it out from there.
Yes, and I would ask, as Alderman from the 19th said, if the clerk could include all the research that was gathered by the former Alderwoman from the 28th in this and share it with the committee. I would just, I'm open to any amendments to this, understand, if people wish to change this. I'm only sponsoring the bill because I think that we need to take care of our city. I won't be benefiting from this. I've made that perfectly clear. But I think that we need to move carefully, but we also need to be considerate of other people and our constituency. I'm torn with this. I think that we need to pay people a fair salary. But then at the same time, as you, Madam Chair, as you stated, that, we need to work in tandem with the city personnel department on being transparent about how those negotiations are moving along and what people can expect. And the past few years have been, I've been in the office for 13 years. This has been a full-time job for me. The past 3 years, we're just not delivering the services, and we've become the point people for managing that, with all the changes going on with NIS, and it's overwhelming. Now, do I anticipate this to continue at this level? I don't know. I don't know which direction the city's going, but I think until we show that we're more capable of delivering the services our people are paying for, we're going to be in that hot seat and be put on the forefront of making sure our constituents get the services and the taxpayers are paying for. And I think we need to show more compassion to our city employees and our taxpayers. We're kind of leaving them out a lot of times. So, but yeah, I'm amenable to putting this aside, and I would solicit any amendments that people want to make. Please send them my way and to the whole committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderwoman Rice.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I appreciate that, Alderman from the 14th. I share a lot of your your thoughts. One piece that I would like to have some more clarity around is the second piece of this bill is the expense of account. So I know when I came in as an alderperson, it was very unclear to me what that money was supposed to be used for, how to best track it. And so I just have never taken any of it. That means that I have also not supported some local organizations the way that my predecessors or alders had. I was never very clear about what exactly that money was supposed to be. And so that is a lot on me. But I think particularly with what has happened with the Board of Aldermen, we do owe the public some clarity around that fund and what we use it for. I think it would be helpful to be really transparent about what those dollars are used for, why we have that account attached to this. There was a brief bit of conversation about it, and I've seen a couple of flags that I think it behooves us to have that conversation as well. Oh, sure. Yeah.
If you look at the board bill on page 2, lines 15 to 22, and it actually enumerates those expenses that are allowed: civic and charitable contributions, memberships of, I guess, fraternal or professional organizations, office expenses that may not be covered, flowers and gifts to maybe constituents, entertainment, lobbying, and other business-related activities, personal, automobile, and travel. And I'm sure most of us have used all of these. I mean, just traveling around and driving the alleys and getting flat tires. I mean, I've spent probably $3,000 in having my tires replaced. So, I mean, they're already enumerated. I don't know, did you need more clarity on that, Alderwoman from the 8th?
Well, I think for me, it would be helpful to know how how aldermen track that, right? Whether that is there was a question that was raised by the alderman from the 5th last meeting about accountable versus unaccountable. Are we supposed to keep a list of, here are the expenditures that I have that we're accounting for that? So in my case, because I don't take the money, if I was to submit a receipt, that could be reimbursed for that money. But it's not something that is added on. In the case of folks who add it to their paycheck, which is fine. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anyone, just being transparent about how folks track that. And so since we're asking for an increase in that amount as well, I think that would be good. And there were suggestions, I believe, I can't remember which alderman it was, but wanted to even increase that fund further because of the amount of the number of constituents that we would have, or that the next Alderman 14 would have. So just kind of.
And right now, at each alderman's discretion of how they report that. And I don't know if I know the alderman from the 5th wanted to make sure that was in there, and it says at their discretion. So it can be reported either way, but I don't know that we want to change that, but I don't know if people think that that should be raised. I'm open for that amendment also.
Okay, just to finish off, I'm glad we're holding this to have some more discussion in front of the hopefully get some more constituent participation. I know that there are folks who have said raise the pay even higher, right? There are folks who are saying this is too much. We were told this morning this is too much. But I've also heard, and I've asked those folks to please write in something that we can present to everyone, so that it's not just, well, Annie says that we should be paid more. But if there are constituents who do value this also, I think that needs to be heard as well. And so we have gotten some information from the personnel division. There's a little bit more detail there that I think would be helpful for us. Kind of sitting down. I was just pulled up the city budget documents, going through sort of line by line what supervisors are paid, what different positions in different offices are paid, so we can kind of make some comparisons on those. So I think that is anyway, I'm grateful for a little bit more time here, and apologies that I didn't bring any further suggestions, Alderman, for the 14th. My brain has been a little bit fried this week, so I am grateful for the time over the holidays to think a little more concentrated on this. Thank you.
'Tis the season.
Right, Alderman from the 5th.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I kind of wanted to touch on what the Alderwoman from the 8th alluded to. As I was reading the bill, I was not 100% clear on the expense program or the expense reimbursement program. Under the current program, you have the option to itemize every expense. I don't know if I've seen a clear document on what those expenses, that expense money can be used for, but you have the option of documenting every expense and submitting for reimbursement. The other path is to accept, and it's every other paycheck or every 2 weeks or however it's figured out, or every other paycheck, which paychecks come every 2 weeks. There's an opportunity, and I believe the amount is $350. It is not accountable, and there's no requirement to list where those funds went. But that money is taxable, is fully taxable as part of your income. I personally chose that option because I did not want to build in that regular reporting if it was not required. I simply use those funds to put gas in my vehicle for making my rounds around the ward, that sort of thing, and take the tax hit willingly, because doing that reporting is another chunk of time I could spend conversing with my constituents, out in neighborhood meetings, that sort of thing. So I think some clarity around that expense program is necessary. And yes, I do agree with not voting out today. Let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more public input and a little bit more discussion before we consider voting out of committee. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Alderman. I am going to need to turn this over to my vice chair as I have another engagement coming up at 11:30 and need a little bit of travel time to get there. So Alderwoman Rice is going to handle the remainder of the meeting, if that is all right.
That's fine. I can take over.
Okay, thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, so it looks like we have a hand from the Alderwoman from the 19th as well.
Oh, I just wanted to share, because this is for the public to be educated as well. It is really not that complicated about the expense. It is something that is used by every municipality that chooses to provide that opportunity across the United States of America from the Congress on down. The opportunity for it to be not accountable, but you do give categories of your expenditures in an annual report is very simple. And so if you choose to take it and it's taxable, that reduces that amount, because I think when I looked at mine, it's like $279 that is available after taxes. So just to give the public an idea, and I know that all my constituencies will tell you that I contribute to every event that takes place in my ward. If I know about it, I'm contributing to it. And so therefore, I am now probably gone into my personal money above, this year is going to be above $7,000 in addition to this expense. So all of us are very, very, very cognizant, and we do contribute to the community. I pay membership to all my neighborhood associations because that helps them. And that is that money going back in. Give you another example. One of my parks needed a porta potty. The city won't provide it. So I pay for it every month, $119 a month. So if you look at it, I'm already close to half of what that is, the taxable money. So I know I'm way above contributing back beyond that expense. And you will find that out every time somebody walks up to you and says, Ms. Davis, I need some money to go to work next week. And you hand them $10. Or somebody says, I just got to buy food for the next couple of days till I get paid. You hand them $20. You way above at the end of the year. So there's no money for somebody to go take a cruise or buy a new coat or any of those things. And I just spent $280 for my time. When you're driving these alleys all the time, that is what you're spending money on, okay? And you cannot continue to send negative messages out here to people to make them believe that all the people are going out of their way to try to be personally benefiting from something, because that is not true. It is not true on any level, and I have not seen it. I don't know it personally, because that small amount of money based on how you work in your ward above and beyond 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, being called in the middle of the night on a Sunday to come get a possum off of somebody's porch. I mean, these are the things that we do. Don't tell me about being off from work and I don't work full time. I've been working full time. You will work full time. You may not want to work full time, but you will work full time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. I appreciate the that is exactly the type of explanation I was looking for. So thank you so much for that. All right, Alderwoman for the 14th, if you don't mind, we will go ahead and move on to item number 2, unless you had any final thoughts.
No, I just, like I said, I would like any input that people would like to add or and put it before the committee on this pay bill. So I appreciate all the input and the discussion we've had today, and please reach out. I appreciate everybody and the complete discussion of what our duties are And I also will include in this, I'll have it sent to the clerk and have it included in our folder, is, we reflect a lot of what goes on in Congress. And if you look at the duties of a congressperson, I found that, and I will send that on, and what our duties are. And we mirror that in many, many ways. And there is no, parameters and putting a fence around, these are your areas. It's very broad and very demanding. So I think we need to look at that and what our responsibilities are to our constituents, and how most of us, I believe all of us, take that very seriously in our work.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Alderwoman. Just a note, Ms. Crawford, I see your hand again, but we don't go back to public testimony after you've had the opportunity to speak. So we are going to move on to item number 2 is Board Bill 126, introduced by Alderman from the 23rd. Alderman from the 23rd, the floor is yours.
Okay, and she was told that she can speak on this bill. So she was told to keep them separate, so just in case. No, this is simple. I mean, everybody, in fact, you guys, basically this committee's made the case for me that the average full-time person is about 54,000. That's full-time. This bill calls for the alder people to be full-time. I will take out or address the misnomer that you can't have outside. It's not in here. It doesn't say you can't have an outside job. It says this is a full-time job. You do it as a full-time job. And if you do things separately on the side, or you have separate income, or you help somebody with tax preparation or babysitter, whatever, that's acceptable in this. It says it's a full-time. This is first off, the president of the board helped put this together. And I think there's a need to say, look, everybody here is like, we need more money. Everybody says, oh, we do 70, 80, 90 hours, 150, whatever it is, hours. I do know I do it full time. I have no other job. In fact, shortly after I was elected, I did find out this was a full-time job. And in order for me to devote my full time to it, I sold my business, which was a very lucrative business, but I sold it because I couldn't do both very well. I do this full time. This is my job. And there's other older people that do it full time, that have no other income. This is just putting it to the voters, asking them to say, do you think it should be a full-time job? And again, that's just how simple. I mean, that's just really how simple it is. And so I mean, I'm open to questions, but and I know that the person that was told she could speak on both sides, and I don't know what she has to say, but certainly.
Okay, so I do.
About it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I know that Carissa was one who wanted to speak on both bills, who had registered to do that. So if we could move Carissa back over as well, then if you all don't mind, we'll just start with the public testimony, and then we will go through the committee with questions. So let's see. Lori, if you want to turn your camera on, if you had testimony regarding this board bill as well, we'd be happy to take that now. Unless, did we just lose her?
Hello, this is Lori. Were you talking to me?
Sorry, did you have testimony on this particular board bill?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I put my comments in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, or if you could move Lori back over to the attendees list, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, Carissa, Ms. Carissa Gilman Hernandez, testimony on Board Bill 126.
Hello, thank you again, Carissa Coleman Hernandez. I'm the 15th Ward Committee woman. I want to give my support towards this board bill in defining the Board of Aldermen position as full-time. I would ask that you also define what full-time is. Is that 40 hours? Is that 35 hours? And how is that accountable? And figure that out. It sounds like I know that there are a lot of things that you all do as aldermen that are not like easily accountable as hours, such as getting a possum off of a front porch and Sunday at 2 a.m. I'll be honest, Megan Green is very good at getting possums out of houses, and that is a key constituent service here in the 15th Ward. So I don't know how you define that. But I will say that getting an idea of expectations of how quickly we can expect to hear back from our aldermen, how consistency on how we get a hold of them, things like that, that would be expected with any full-time job, even if it is a loosely defined position. And I would add on that, I would hope that you would be amenable to adding on to this bill amendments that also define what is part-time work outside of being an alderman defined as. There are many people in St. Louis who work 2 40-hour jobs, and I commend them all. I do not believe you all are people that should be doing that, because you are you work for us as citizens first and foremost. And so I know there are aldermen who have very impressive jobs that I'm sure pay a lot of money, and that supplements their income to ensure that they can be an alderman, but it does mean that their attentions are diverted. And so I would like a little bit more clarity in this bill, just defining what is full-time, how is that defined and tracked, and then what is acceptable part-time work for an alderman to do, and how you all want to define that. And I appreciate your time for letting me speak.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, at this time, we will go through the committee for discussion on the board bill. So I just muted myself. Sorry about that. I'm getting the hang of this here. Okay, Alderman Cone, I think we start with you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate the buttons here. Video on yet? I can't.
Not quite.
No. I keep pushing the button, sorry. Did we hear from all of the folks in the public that wanted to speak on this bill, Madam Chair?
Those are the only ones. Carissa was the only one who had indicated she wanted to give testimony on this bill, and I don't see anyone else in the participants. Oh, well, maybe we do. Hang on. Ms. Crawford's hand is back up, and Elizabeth Garibay is also has a hand up. I am happy to move Elizabeth over. I think, well, yeah, I guess Lori too. We'll see.
I'll reserve my comments, questions until after the public's had an opportunity to speak.
Okay, let's give this one more shot here. Ms. Crawford, did you have any testimony on this board bill that's in front of us right now?
Yes, and the board bill is saying that the alderperson, this should be a full-time job. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you turn on your camera for us as well, please? This board bill 126 is a submission to it would be a charter change. And so go ahead with your testimony.
So this is on having the alderperson's job full-time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the few questions that I have about it being full-time. I did a little bit of math since I was on last. And I was looking, okay, with 28 wards in 1970, there were 622,236 of the population. So on average, each ward would have had about 22,222 people in each ward. It was considered part-time. We didn't have access to cell phones. There was no website. You basically had your office phone And maybe your home phone, if you gave it out, you weren't. So let's move up to 2020. We lost 206,816 people since 2020. 301,574 population as of 2020 census. So that would put the average in 14 wards, $21,541 less than in 1970, which it was still considered a part-time job. Now you want assistance? They didn't have assistance. They managed to do this. Now I know you work hard. I know Ann Schweitzer, she is my alderwoman and I love her. She's great. But I just, I can say, okay, with the cost of living, maybe a little bit more, but doubling the salary is outrageous. We're doing about the same amount of work as the alderperson in 1970 would have done with more people. Now, also, I wanted to point out that this should have been maybe in person. It was not publicized very well. I found out through a friend. And do you get benefits? Do you get health care with this? Do you get lifelong health care? What type of benefits? Because do you get, Joe Vaccaro was raising his head, yes, you get health care. Carol was saying, no, you don't get health care benefits. I'm confused.
Ms. Crawford, excuse me, we don't actually do question and answer with public testimony, so you're welcome to ask your questions and members of the committee can respond after you're completed with testimony.
Okay, so I just want to know if you got health care. We can ask that and the benefits, and this was not publicized. I know very few people that knew about this. And again, in the city of St. Louis with the poverty level, people don't have access to a computer. They don't know how to get on Zoom. I know how to get on Zoom because I Zoom all the time with my work. So are you ever going to start doing this in person? COVID-based, all the other city employees have to show up in person. I suggest you show up in person. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. And Elizabeth Garibay, do you have testimony on Board Bill 126?
Well, I don't think I do, but I do have one question and I don't know who to ask or how to find this out or where do I search for this. I've looked at the new ward map and there are so many out there that I'm having a difficult time finding out what ward I will be in with the reduction to 14 wards. Also, I agree that this was not very well publicized. I've kind of made a commitment recently to get more involved in these sorts of things because I've been a 40-year city resident. So I'd like to know that. And I'd also like to know, how do I find out, because I've also tried to Google this, who has actually filed to be a alderperson in the new wards. I'm having a hard time finding that. So I do think that I agree with the last speaker who said, I think making this well known to the public and how they are able to sign on would help. I mean, I think we have to hold the residents accountable as well, because I mean, I've personally been encouraging people to attend meetings, I put it on Nextdoor, I put it on Facebook, join this meeting. But if the residents don't take the initiative to to join these things, then it's kind of unfair to blame the alderman if you're not doing your part as a resident. But about this full-time thing, I don't know. I mean, I'm torn because the statistics do show that even though the wards are reduced in half, the population in each ward will not be changing that much because of the reduction in population of the city. I also think if it's going to be full-time, there does have to be some accountability to how the hours are being put in. I agree with the in-person, and one meeting I attended, they were really trying to get back into the chambers, but there are some logistic things that have also apparently been requested long ago that have not been taken care of. So I guess I don't have an opinion on this. I kind of do, but I have lots of opinions, but they don't always fit the niche for whatever we're talking about. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the
Yeah, and I will point out that a couple of our elderly people have shared some links in the chat. I'm not sure if those also go to attendees, so those might not be visible to her at this point. But there is a place on the city website under the Board of Aldermen to search for your new ward. If you are a registered voter, the voter card that you have received, you've been voting at your new ward polling place for the last 2 elections. So your ward as marked on your voter registration is now the new ward starting in April. And as well, the Board of Elections does post a list of candidates who have filed for office at the end of each day. They only update if new candidates have filed. So the list that is there is the list that is current of people who have filed. Filing, I believe, ends in January. So we are having all of these discussions. People are filing for office, not knowing what they may or may not get paid, or what the exact job description will be. So I think that is an interesting place to hold here. Okay, so let's go back to members of the committee. Alderman Cone, I will come back to you. If you are able, Alderman Cone.
I am trying. Hold on. Appreciate everyone's patience while I work through my technology issues here. Moving a little slow today. You know, I mentioned quite a few concerns about this. Our initial meeting, I guess that was last week. One, the possibility that this could limit people's participation in the legislative process or electoral representation. My colleague from the 23rd mentioned, you know, that he sold his business to devote his full attention to the job when he got elected. He did do that, and hopefully his ward is better for it. You know, it was a couple of years after he got elected that he sold his business, and you know, I kind of have to point out that not everyone has that ability or luxury to do that. It's just I'm really hard pressed to say that this is really something that's not very well thought out. You know, I've heard, you know, various people mention that we should be tracking hours we work. You know, we aren't non-exempt employees. We are not hourly employees. We are not eligible for overtime. This is not a job that's eligible for overtime. We can work 80, 100 hours a week. The pay that the city provides does not change, period. And hasn't for several decades. You know, there are several occupations that require people to work a certain number of hours every week in order to keep certifications, licensing, you know, other things of that nature. There are small business owners that might want to participate, and maybe they have a business partner that's able to maintain the day-to-day operations of their, you know, whatever business they have. But maybe they have a busy season like we are currently in with the holidays right now. It's very short-sighted, very restrictive and limiting of people's ability to be able to function in this role and to have a healthy work-life balance in some respect. And I've done my research on this. I have not been able to find a single legislative body, municipal legislative body, that would require the type of language that we're speaking about now, or that's been suggested. Maybe not that necessarily what's in the board bill currently. I mean, I guess to be clear, the board bill is basically, written so that it states that we devote our, full-time attention to the role, not that it prohibits people from having outside employment or owning a business, although that has been suggested. And frankly, I do think that this, is a completely separate conversation from the pay raise, because I think it goes to the nuances of what this role is and what people expect from us as a legislative body. When the initial Prop R passed back in 2012, a lot of the conversation, as I mentioned earlier, wasn't around reducing the budget. The conversation was, how do we make ourselves an effective legislative body? How do we get more into discussing policy? How do we get into discussing legislation versus and I think all of us enjoy constituent services. We wouldn't be in this job if we didn't have a passion for our neighbors. But we cannot be all, do all, see all, hear all, and be everywhere as much as we try. The last few weeks in particular, I know many of us have been, double, tripled, and even quadruple booked at some points in time throughout the day and evening. It's a very busy time of year for all of us, but this is just something that I think there's a lot more questions than there are answers when discussing this particular bill. And I think it is very limiting, both in terms of the prospects of people being able to run for elected office as an alderperson, partly, and then also once you become an alderperson, the mechanics and mechanisms and processes that we put in place to ensure that this is happening, we haven't even discussed as a part of this board bill. And so, I think it's, I think it's just very short-sighted on our part right now, discussing this and, without any type of clarity or specifics on all of the items that I just talked about. So, obviously always here for the public input, but I think that there's a lot more education, a lot more understanding that needs to be had with respect to this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cohn. I do know that we have other members not on the committee who are here, and we'll call on you folks as soon as we get through the committee here. So Alderwoman Ingracia, it looks like you're up next. Oh, we had you, and then we lost you.
I don't have anything, thanks.
Okay. All right. Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of thoughts and statements on the specifics of this bill, and I don't know if the sponsor is planning on taking a vote on it, but if that is the case, I'll likely be voting no, because I think I do want some more information and some more defined subject matter in the bill. One thing I would note is that I think it brings a lot of benefit to the board when you have various professionals in various professions bringing their particular subject matter or professional skill set to the board. I myself am a banker of 15 years. The chairwoman is an attorney. We have other attorneys, and I think it brings a good value to the Board of Aldermen when people bring their discipline set, and when they're continuing to focus on their discipline set while also serving public. I don't want to get philosophical with government, but I think even the founders of this country believed in sort of a citizen represented public service, where it's not something you dedicate your full life to, but you do it for a while, and you do it in conjunction with your other trade, and you move on. So I think it would just be a loss to the board that we would lose a lot of folks who have professional skills that help and benefit the city and constituents. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Oldenburg. Next was Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Narayan.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I don't have terribly strong feelings on this one way or another. I do think if we're going to be giving these positions any sort of substantial raise, that we should make clear that that the presumption is that you will be doing this full time. But as we've discussed a lot in this committee, I don't know anyone who is not doing this full time, even if they have another job. It seems everyone is doing this part time, or doing this full time, and that gig is part time, their second job. I agree a lot with what the alderman from the 16th just said, that the various skill sets that people bring when they come to the board are important. I was talking to him just the other day about a pension issue, because he's a numbers guy. I'm a lawyer by trade. We're notoriously not numbers people. I know that during the pandemic, it was really useful to have Alderman Vollmer's opinion on things as a restaurateur. That there are various people who are bringing various skill sets, and it's nice to be able to borrow their expertise when we're weighing in on various issues. So I wouldn't want to see anything that restricted an alderman from having outside employment, even if we made it clear that this was to be your primary job. I also believe that this bill and any aldermanic salary bill should probably move at the same time, because I know several people have expressed that the idea that their vote on one of the bills would be contingent on the other bill. So I would be a no on this today, but only because I believe that it should remain in committee while we figure out the salary component. And with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Ryan. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you. I echo the sentiments of the people who've spoken before me. I don't think we need to further define the full-time, part-time role of the Board of Aldermen. You do a good job, you hopefully keep your seat, and your constituents want you to be their alderman. You do not a good job, they vote for somebody else. That person can prove that they can do the job in the time that they can give it. I agree that having ability to keep professional licenses and be knowledgeable in many fields is valuable to the board. So I'm not particularly interested in limiting the scope of who can, run for these seats and hopefully serve our community. So at this time, I'd be a no on the bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schweitzer. Alderman Page.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. No additional comments or questions, but I will say that my thoughts are aligned with those of the Alderwoman of the 13th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Really quickly before I move to the Alderman of the 14th, I see your hand. I do want to clarify a couple of statements that I made in the last hearing. I was pointed to in the mayor's job description in the charter, it does say that the mayor shall hold no other position. That is explicit under Article 7, shall devote his entire time to the duties of his office. So that is explicit. There's also under Article 8, city officers and employees, further down, devotion of entire time to duties. They're all city officers and employees, except the mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen, members of the Land Fee Board, a few other boards, and such others as may be accepted by ordinance shall devote their entire time to the duties of their office. So there is mention of some of these things in the charter. The Board of Aldermen is specifically exempted from that devotion of entire times to duties. And I think that the language that is in this board bill in front of us would not supersede that. That doesn't, I don't think it changes that enough that I think we would have to be very explicit with this language to say that no other employment would be allowed if that was the goal of this. So with that, I just wanted to make sure that I clarified statements that have since been corrected from my part. So, and the last two other points I wanted to make really quickly. I agree with the Alderwoman from the 13th. Our accountability in a large part is our voters. We don't have supervisors that do performance reviews. Our supervisors are our voters. There are mechanisms to recall us if we are doing a bad job, if we are neglecting our duties. Yes, those are big efforts for a citizen to undertake, but we are accountable to our voters, to the public, and there are mechanisms for removing us from office or not putting us back into office. And I think that is one of our best accountability mechanisms. And furthermore, just as a point of myself, I had fully intended on doing this job alongside my work as an immigration attorney. However, I left that job more than a year ago, a year and a half ago, because I was unable to schedule meetings with clients. I was unable to perform to the best of my abilities in that other job because of the nature of this job. The committee meeting is only getting scheduled the Friday beforehand, if you're lucky, potentially even the week of, evening hearings, evening neighborhood association meetings, early morning meetings. All of those things just made it really difficult to do that other job. And so for those of you who are still able to do that, my kudos to you and for being able to serve your constituents well at the same time. So I think especially as we move to 14, we have a committee that is looking at what do committees look like going forward? But if there are anywhere near the same number of board bills that have to come through the Board of Aldermen with 14 aldermen and with a reduced number of committees, their time may be even more full-time just with the legislative piece of this job than is currently for those of us who are on a number of committees or who attend all of the committees that we possibly can, because that's the way that we best do our jobs. So just wanted to make those points that, and we are not hourly, we don't get overtime, there's no way for us to clock that or, be compensated for that work. So those are my personal opinions. I'll step back as the Alderwoman from the 8th, and I will take over Vice Chair again here. Alderwoman from the 14th, I see your hand. Oh, hang on one second. You muted again.
Oh, I'm sorry. As I look around, in the 13 years I've served, the one thing I know I have in common with my colleagues is we're all here for the service of our city. Excuse me. We have a passion for that. And, as the Alderwoman from the 13th said, we serve our voters. And if they don't like the service we're delivering, they have the power of the vote. So trying to, make this, I kind of feel like it's a nanny law. I think if you don't come in here with a professional attitude and with the attitude to serve, let the voters take over, because that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Davis, sorry, I see your hand.
Thank you very much. I do want to share that those who do have full-time jobs, their employers have agreed to allow them the time that they need to be in service. And I know my former employer, when I first served on the school board, that was a passion for them. They cared about the school system and allowed me to have the time I needed to attend meetings, whatever I needed to do on behalf of that position. And so you can't We can't step in and know and or judge all of those different situations. As was mentioned, if you own a business, you don't know who else is stepping in to help run that business. And so to limit an individual's thought process and or ability to run and serve is for me, it's just unconscionable, because this is not a time clock position. There is no way for it to be, because we never know where we'll have to serve at what moment, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 12 months out of the year. You don't get to choose. It is chosen for you by your constituency. And if you don't show up and perform, they will vote you out. I've seen it enough in the 15 years I've been sitting here. So I don't think we have any problems that we have to worry about whether or not a person is going to be doing their job, because it's going to be very, very obvious to the constituency who sees and knows all. They're closer and know more than we know as aldermen who serve next to someone, because we're not in that. The constituency is the barometer. They are definitely the supervisor. So I really thank those who have input about it, but no one understands the position and no one understands all the things that are involved when a person chooses to run. And it is not for us to get into their private business with their employer. And it is not for us to make decisions about their business. And I'm gonna tell you something, my entire life, on my father's side of the family, that's why I'm a workaholic like a robot. All my life watching them, they always had 2 full-time jobs. I watched my grandfather, I watched my dad. Everybody always had 2 full-time jobs, because they never, think about it, Black men, even with college degrees, when you look back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they did not get good positions. They had to have 2 full-time jobs, but they made it work. They served on the school system, PTA boards, everything. They made it work with their families and all that. So you can't determine what somebody has the ability to do or have the need to do. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. And I know it is wrong. I did it myself. I worked a part-time job, a full-time job, volunteered, and did flea market on Saturday. But my kids never suffered, nor any of those things I did. So don't judge what somebody can do. It's just wrong. We want it open to anybody who believes in the mission of serving people and are willing to do a good job. And again, I count on the residents 100%. And they hear me all the time. I say, I'll help you. If you think you need to get rid of me, I'll help you. I will listen to you and I will sit down and move to another direction. So, you gotta, I'm gonna end with that because I may say something I shouldn't say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. So Alderwoman Shamoon Clark Hubbard is here, but is unavailable to join us for a video, but is listening in. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Any other members of the committee have anything else that they would like to add at this time? Alderman Vaccaro, how are you feeling here? It sounds like we may not have the votes today.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's a ballot initiative. So if we don't, and there's no other hearings, then in a sense, by not taking a vote, you've decided to kill the bill. So if it's the intention of this committee to kill this bill, then we shouldn't take a vote. Either way, there's not really a whole lot of meetings left.
You're right. There's not a whole lot of meetings, but with the time necessary to get an initiative onto the ballot, we do have time to have another committee hearing. We have another committee hearing the first week that we are back in January, which it was the intention of the chairwoman to do. If we keep Board Bill 126 in as a topic of discussion alongside of Board Bill 119 here, it looks like that first week of January, the week of the 9th. If we have another committee hearing that week, then there would still be time for this to go onto the ballot for the April voters.
It's 10 weeks before.
Yep,
So
I've
by the
done a
time-
lot of the
okay,
math on the
Okay, so
charter
by the
commission.
time you do that, you get it out of committee. Then it's got to go for to be perfected. You know, it takes an additional 2 weeks, 2 meetings after it comes out of committee.
It does, but you so I've done a lot of this math in trying to get something else on the ballot here this last time, and a lot of talking with the Board of Elections. There is time if the board bill comes out, if the committee decides to vote the board bill out in that first week of January, you could second read, you could suspend the rules to perfect on the 13th, you could third read and finally pass the following on the 20th. The deadline to get onto the ballot is the 24th. And even then after that, the Board of Elections does have the authority to go to the court to petition to get on after that 10 weeks. So there is still time, and it sounds like, Alderman, it sounds like you don't have the votes in support at the moment, and it sounds like the conversation wants to continue alongside Board Bill 119. So I think the best thing to do without taking a vote and potentially voting it no today would be to hold it over so that we can have more public testimony on both bills come January.
Well, okay. I mean, again, when you talk about suspending the rules, you know, that's going to take 2/3 of the members present to spend. I think you're just making it a lot tougher. And I agree. It seems like the people here that have full-time jobs, you know, why not make an amendment to say, look, you just got to show up in the office 1 hour a day. I'd be amenable to that. Where it says, you know, 1 hour a day to answer a phone call. Where does anybody have a problem with that? Put it on the ballot. Then an alderman has to show up. Pick the hour. It could be 8 in the morning. It could be 4 in the afternoon. Why not do that? Why not change it to be at least be there to answer phone calls? You know, you guys do whatever you want to do. I think that the bill has merit. I think that the president of the board, who helped put this together, that mostly put it together, feels that this bill has merit. You know, I don't think I'd be open to an amendment, amending it. They would just have to show up in the office 1 hour a day, and you can pick the hour.
So Alderman, I agree that this has been a fruitful conversation, because we have all been able to discuss what it is that we do in these jobs, how these jobs operate. And I think any public education around that is helpful here. Alderman Cohn, I see you came off mute. Did you have thoughts that you wanted to add here?
No, I just have a habit of pushing both the video and trying to get my fingers to work. My apologies.
Okay.
This bill is not intended to block anyone from being an alderperson. This bill is not intended to say you can't be an attorney or work for a bank or, you know, do whatever it is you do. But
Sure. I think that there is a danger in how we describe this to, you know, how the voters would view this. The article that was in the Post-Dispatch made it sound as if this would be preventing aldermen from holding other jobs. So maybe we can do some cleanup. I don't know. I don't see any amendments in the drive. I'm not sure if anyone is prepared to offer an amendment today. It sounds like the best course of action is to keep this alongside 119 and hold over until we can have some more testimony, some more discussion in January.
do whatever you feel.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Vaccaro.
I can't make a motion. I'm not even on this committee, so it's not even my choice.
I appreciate you coming and presenting the bill again here on this dreary Saturday morning. So with that, I will just muted myself for some reason. Here we go. We'll move on. There is an item for committee discussion. There are various job positions and openings at the Board of Aldermen that are in folks' Google Drive here. Let me pull this up. And I see that Sharita is still on. I apologize. I was not aware that I was going to be taking over the meeting here today. So it doesn't look like we need to approve these necessarily. I'm not sure what the point of the discussion was at the moment. So Sharita, do you have insight as to what this item of discussion was?
I'm not sure, Madam Chair, if they are approving the jobs, the postings, or if you all were just discussing. I know Terry had emailed me. Give me just a second.
Okay. Is anyone else on the committee or otherwise? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the email that I received from the clerk, I can send it to you. And I guess it's the committee's purview if you all would like to approve these positions to be posted.
Okay.
It's so I don't know if President Green spoke with you all about posting certain positions, but I can forward you this email if you give me just a second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No worries, hold on.
Madam Clerk, are you forwarding it to the whole committee?
I sure can.
Thank you.
No problem.
Alderwoman from the 6th, I see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, I don't know that I feel comfortable even having a discussion about this today. I'm not sure who would we have come before us to kind of explain where we are. And I don't know anything about this topic, and without the leadership of the president's office or having maybe Clerk Kennedy on, I just don't think we're going to have enough information to move anything forward or even have a meaningful discussion.
Okay, Alderman from the 13th.
Just agreeing with Alderman from the 6th on that point.
Okay, Alderman from the 19th.
Yeah, I had just gotten off of the Personnel Committee, and a lot of this discussion had taken place before you guys came on last week. And so you just don't have the background, I think, to have the discussion today. I know what the decisions have been made previously, but I don't know if that's the direction that you want to go now. So I think you probably should put that on hold.
Okay. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree here. You know, I know we are 5 short months from a reorganization here of the Board of Aldermen. And I do know that work was done about staffing at the board. And I think that we need to have probably some urgent conversation around what that is going to look like. Because to be quite honest, if we post positions that are only available for 5 months until we, you know what I mean? Like if we're moving into a new Board of Aldermen that may be staffed completely differently, starting in April of next year, you know, getting applicants for positions that are potentially only open for 4 months before the new board could vote seems a little bit hairy to me. So I'm getting some messages that we do need to approve things to be posted, but I was under the impression that some of these were previously posted positions, like the financial analyst, we've filled that position before, and others, but I agree. I don't think that we quite have enough information to be doing this today. Alderman Cohn, do you have any insight on this?
Just a little. I've had some side conversations with the president's office about posting the roles that were previously posted. These are not currently posted, but they were approved in the budget. They have been previously filled. These are mostly backfill positions that just had not been voted on by the committee the last several months. So the president's office did want to at least try to move forward with getting these filled because some of them are critical to the operations of the Board of Aldermen, and we've not had them filled, like the financial analyst role. So I do know that there's a desire to move forward with that, but I do agree that without a representative of the president's office or the clerk himself here, that we should probably hold the discussion for another meeting. Unfortunately, I'd like to just get this.
I understand. Maybe what we can do, I will get in touch with the president and the clerk here. If we need to have a quick meeting just for the purposes of approving these postings, maybe next week we could do that. I think just without this, without a little more insight, I'm really hesitant here, guys. So Sharita, I'm sorry, I don't see an email.
Yeah, I did forward it to the committee.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
And I know it was talk at least hiring or giving the clerks permission to at least post the receptionist position.
Okay.
At least, but like I said, it's up to the purview of the committee, because as you all know that our clerk, Tracy, is the associate clerk. She is doing double duty at this moment, which entails answering the phone as well as the associate clerks clerking the committee hearings and doing her secretarial duties. So I know, but like I said, you all can talk to the President Green about it, but they did speak about at least that one, but you all can definitely double check. And we do have applications already for that receptionist position, if I'm not mistaken. But since it's been some months, I would suggest reposting it, but you all just let me know, what you all want us to do.
Sure. Alderman Cone.
I cannot stress enough the criticality of that receptionist role and the amount of burden that it is placing on other staff at the Board of Aldermen right now. And frankly, I think doing a disservice to all of us as alder people who, expect our constituents to be able to call and, they're either greeted with a voicemail that's full or, unfortunately no answer or response at all. I really think that it would be responsible on the part of the members of this body to move forward with allowing the clerk to post that position, so that we can get some candidates in here for interviews and hopefully get it filled very quickly. Because that role in particular is not going to change with the restructuring of the Board of Aldermen, that I would imagine always going to need a receptionist at the front desk there. So I would be very supportive of moving forward with giving the clerk the support to move forward with that particular position.
Okay. Alderwoman Gracia, I see your hands.
Thank you so much. I don't disagree with that, but it also sounds like maybe it's been quite a while since we received resumes on this. And so if the assistant clerk, thinks that it may make sense for us to repost the job in hopes that we get some candidates who are actually available now and maybe not have moved on to other things. So I still don't think today is the appropriate time, unfortunately, even though the job is critical.
Okay, so what I'm trying to look at here, so everyone should have gotten a copy of the email describing exactly sort of which of our staff are pulling double duty right now. The receptionist job, if we repost, we will regather applications. Is that correct, Sharita?
Correct. If we decide to repost that position, it usually will stay posted on the city's website for 2 weeks.
Okay.
After that, we gather all the applications. Depending on the amount that we have, the clerk and I will usually go through and skim them down and bring forth the applications to the personnel committee. If it's about 15 or 20 of them, let you all go through it. You all may want us to narrow it down some more. We'll do that. And so you all would not have to interview 10 or 15 people. You can go through and if you decide to interview 10 or 15, you're more than welcome. But we give you all the applications and the resumes so you all can do it. We'll schedule the time. So whoever you all decide to pick, we'll go from that list and schedule interviews. But like Alderwoman and Gracia said, it has been a while since it was posted. So a lot of those candidates could have moved on to something else.
Sure. Okay. I am inclined to at least post the receptionist and the executive secretary positions so that we can try to get some help for the staff who is short-staffed over there. I know it is over the holidays, but if we can at least get this process started, we can move forward there. I'm looking here at the email. It says that some of them have been updated. Staff helped in updating the revised job descriptions. So if those are, Sharita, I realize I am putting you on the spot on this, but if those are the most urgent positions, so the receptionist and the executive secretary positions, are those the most urgent that need to be filled? Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Thank you. So yes, ma'am, in my opinion, that is very critical to the function of the Board of Aldermen. Like I said, we are definitely, everyone is doing double duties. Like I said, Tracy is doing triple duties actually. And with Lisa's, recently retired, she's been helping out with that function. And that's another thing, administrative assistant. So we're down that person. So now, our senior secretary, Tina, is responsible for that. So we're all pulling together, to the best of our abilities to make sure it's running very smoothly. Even with our clerk, he has been, off, not even off, I wouldn't even say, he hasn't been as active due to the, the passing of his twin. So all that has been falling on the office. And like I told him, respectively, so he should have taken time off. So, we're just filling in where we can. But in my opinion, yes, I think at this moment, I think Alderman Cone said, it's not going to change those positions. We're still going to need those positions, whether we, at 28 or 20 or 14, we're going to need a receptionist and a couple secretaries, to fill Tracy's position. And then also Erica that left months ago. So.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Members of the committee. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderwoman Evans is on here as well. I apologize if I missed you earlier on conversation on any of the board bills. Members of the committee, if you, knowing that our staff need our support, especially in this most furious time of trying to get things finalized before the end of our session here, would you all be willing to approve posting for these positions? I would say, financial analyst is going to take a little while longer. Legislative research may take a little longer, but also valuable positions. If you all have been able to take some time while we've been sitting here to take a look at those postings, I think they look straightforward to me. Would you all be willing to support a motion to approve posting these?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone have strong feelings opposed?
As long as we get a chance to ask some questions. I'm looking at this letter that says, their positions not filled that the committee approved to post and the applications have been received for them. We have been waiting for the committee to do interviews. Like, there's just some stuff in this letter where I'm like, okay, there's still, I think, a lot of questions to ask. So yeah, we should post them, but I don't think that means that we shouldn't have a conversation and get some of these. I think posting them is like, that's good, let's go. It's not going to be hiring someone right away. It's not going to be something that we couldn't, change our mind on if for whatever reason that needed to happen. But I do think there's a lot of questions in here that I'd like answered.
Okay. Alderman Cone. Your hand went back up there.
It did. Um, sorry, y'all. A little, but to the Alderwoman of the 13th Ward's point, I think we can actually make a motion that provides for just that. You know, I would be open to, / I guess I'm recommending, maybe we do a motion for each position that's required so people can vote their conscience. So in a respect, divide the question. But the motion could be to the extent of authorizing the clerk or assistant clerk to review current applicants, determine how many are still interested in the role, and determine whether or not there's an adequate representation of candidates available currently, and if not, to post the position. So that way we're not posting a position if there are already qualified candidates that are adequately, you know, available and up to the, you know, qualifications of the clerk to proceed with an interview. That way they can at least initiate the interview process if there are current qualified candidates for the position, and if not, they can post the position.
Sure. That does make sense to me. You're right, the email is not clear which positions the committee had approved to post and applications had been received for. So that would be helpful to know there. So, oh, go ahead, Rita.
Madam Vice Chair. The 2 positions definitely is the executive secretary. I want to say the receptionist, but I definitely can check on that. I know the executive secretary for 1.
Sure. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that then. Alderman Cohn, I like your motion. And if we want to we'll just go ahead and move through the list in order, starting with the receptionist typist. So I'll let you make the motion.
Hopefully I can remember what I just said. I would make a motion that we authorize the clerk to review the current candidate list for, did we say the receptionist?
Yes.
Okay, for the receptionist role of the Board of Alderpersons, verify whether or not there are still active interest candidates who meet the qualifications of the role and can proceed with an interview, and that there's enough of them to do so, and if not, to authorize the clerk to post the role of receptionist for the Board of Aldermen.
All right, I'll entertain a second on that motion.
Second.
All right, and since we have not yet voted on anything, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for us?
Alderman, excuse me, Alderman Cohn,
Is Alderwoman Davis on the committee?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I
you're muted.
I'm muted.
You were.
Oh, I.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
Aye.
President Green. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Oldenburg. President Green. We have 7 aye votes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. By your vote, you sustain the motion. So we'll move on to the next position is Executive Secretary. Alderman from the 25th, would you like to just duplicate your motion for the Executive Secretary position?
I will go ahead and try my best. So I would like to make a motion that we authorize the clerk to review the current candidate list of the executive secretary position to ensure that there's an adequate and sufficient talent pool to move forward with interviews. In the event that that is not feasible, we would authorize the clerk to post the position of executive secretary.
Entertain a second.
Second, previous role.
Hearing no objection to previous role. Sounds good. Next position is the financial analyst position. Alderman from the 25th.
I
you wanna
will make a motion. I'll yes, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we authorize the clerk of the board to review the current candidate list for the financial analyst role and determine whether or not there is sufficient and adequate interest from qualified parties in the position, and to proceed with interviews, and if not, to authorize the clerk to post the position of financial analyst for the Board of Aldermen.
Entertain a second.
Second, previous role.
Good deal. All right, moving right along. Maybe we can just ditto the previous motion, Shay. Alderman Cohn, so you don't have to keep doing this, but legislative researcher.
I'm sorry, excuse me. The only ones we had applications for was the executive secretary position and the receptionist.
Okay.
That's
Okay, that's helpful. So we can narrow those motions. Alderman Cohn, if you want to make a motion on the legislative researcher to post, happy to entertain that motion.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we authorize the clerk to post the position of legislative researcher.
Second.
Second, previous role.
All right. On your motion, you've adopted that. And last one up is the administrative position, the administrative assistant. And this is the supervising the staff. The 6th secretary is the one receptionist, the one administrative aide. So I think this is replacing Lisa's position as well. So Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on a motion.
Thank you. I don't want to do this motion.
Oh, you don't want to replace Lisa. I'm sensing.
I missed Lisa already. I don't want to do this motion. I will make the motion. I'm tearing up just making the motion. I make the motion that we authorize the clerk to post the backfill for Lisa McNichol's role, the administrative assistant position of the Board of Aldermen. That's my motion.
Second, previous role.
All right. So we have approved the aforementioned motions on all of these positions. Thanks all for sticking with us here. And we, Madam Clerk Sharita, if we could get a report back, to sort of an update from Mr. Clerk when he is back in the office, just kind of where we're at on this as a committee. It would be helpful to know what work was done before, just so that we can stay updated and stay on top of this and get you all some help over there. So we want you all to have an ability to rest over the holidays as well.
Thank you. I will definitely let him know. I appreciate the committee.
Okay, great. Moving on through the agenda, it looks like we just need to, anybody have an announcement pertinent to the Personnel Committee? I'm gonna go with no. All right, well, let's, so then we need a motion to excuse. I think, Madam Clerk, it was just the Alderman from the 1st who was not with us this morning, or did I miss anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to, or sorry, this is my first time on this one. So we will excuse the Alderwoman from the 1st for necessary absence. And then I will, I don't think we actually officially need a motion to adjourn, but I'll accept one.
So moved.
Point of order.
Oh, sorry, Alderman.
I would like to call a vote on the motion to excuse the Alderwoman from the first ward.
Rude. It will be a voice vote. I will accept a voice vote on the motion to excuse the Alderwoman from the first. So all in favor of excusing for necessary
I
absences?
did call point of order, Madam Chair. I did call for a roll call vote.
Rude. All right. I'm going to call previous roll on that.
Objection to previous roll.
Alderman from the 25th. It is Saturday afternoon now. We are trying to get out of here. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Combs,
No.
Alderwoman Ingracia,
I think she's.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
No.
Alderman Page,
Aye, with grace for the Alderwoman from the first.
President Green, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderman Oldenburg. We have 4 aye votes and 2 noes.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion. We'll report back to the Alderwoman from the first, the insubordination of the 2 other Aldermen, or support for her motions. Thank you all so much for taking the time on Saturday. Thank you to our staff for staffing us, and we will see you next week.
Make the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. Bye.
Staff.